That's right. Good evening, everybody. It's your man PStock, and iHipHopTV one-on-one is back for season 3. It's going big, man. Backed by popular demand. It's great. I hope everybody weathered the pandemic, the storm, everything, the holiday, coming into the new season, and we have a great show as usual. Big shout out to Aladdin 19 in the house. Big shout out to Dark Diva, Mad Money Militia, back in the stride again. Here we go. But tonight, without further ado, just like, the past, what we do, we bring talented, informative people to the screen in front of you so you can hear their story, hear their plans, hear their past, see what's going on, see what's happened, see how you fit in and where can you fit in with what's going on in the trends and the culture, popular culture, and everything that's going on with the guests that we bring aboard. And tonight is tonight's guest is historic. If you know anything, you want to talk about fashion, you want to talk about music, you want to talk about popular culture. In fact, NYC, if you want to talk about clothing and building your own and branding and building your own brand, and taking it to the next level, generating over $5 billion worldwide in sales and merchandise movement. That's what we're talking about. Coming back, starting out in the 90s. And I love this story because his brothers from the hood, and they pull together and they make it happen and they lift themselves up and they still do it. They lift in the community every day, putting good product out there, bringing people in line, all still in tune, relevant today with popular culture. It's huge, So tonight this is going to be a show that you definitely want to tune in. Make sure everything's quiet, and listen up, because tonight we have Mr. Keith Perrin on board. He's one of the co-founders and the originators of the FUBU line right here. Here he is right here, Mr. Keith Perrin on here. Welcome to One-on-One. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And like I said, I was saying, your history and the story, for people that don't know, I recognize back in the 90s, I was working in radio in Philadelphia. I was dabbing in the music business in New York with Loud Records back when I was in the day, and then Rough Riders later, and a few others, So FUBU is that a staple, and to have that brand, I'm talking about. You talk about people tuning in and Funk Flex dropping bombs. That Funk Flex was a FUBU. He was pushing. He was there. He was y'all guy back in the day, coming up at bombs. It's still today. FUBU is still relevant today. So that's the beautiful thing about it, coming from the brothers. But let's tap back into it. Give us a little bit, give the audience a little bit about that past coming up, in the beginning, and then the evolution of FUBU today.
Well, the story's been told 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more. But Daymond had an idea for a brand. Actually, it wasn't even a brand at that time, but it was a hat that he wanted to make. This tie top hat. It was real popular at the time. I'm not a real, I'm not a tie top hat wearing cat, so it wasn't really my thing.
Right.
But I saw him, working on it and trying to do what he needed to do with it to get it off the ground. And, being around him every day, we were good friends, went to school together and all that stuff. So, I jumped in along with Jay and Carl to help, try to build it up and help him out and get over the hump. And I remember Jay is more of the fashionable guy at the time. We all like to dress and be in the trends and all of that stuff, but he was more into thinking clothing brand and owning the clothing store and all of that. That wasn't really my goal. I was into property management at the time. So I was a property manager, responsible for 200 units in Harlem. So that was my passion at the time, was working in the housing field. But you know, with these guys coming home every day, being around them every day, we all just kind of just jumped into this clothing brand. And I remember Jay coming home from service, and he was like, you know, we can really make this a real brand. Like this can be something that's, you know, that's jeans, you know, coats, and you know, all, because we were just thinking like hats and maybe t-shirts and whatnot. We wasn't really thinking like that. So when he came home,
the popular items,
yeah, the
the
popular
items that
items come,
everybody was going. Yeah.
and they also the cheapest items to make. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to get your
Right.
marketing 101, if you want to get your brand out there, hats and t-shirts are the cheapest thing to make to get your name out there without you killing your pockets. But so you know, we did it for a couple of years, try to help get it off the ground, put it in a bunch of videos. And even though we had, you know, friends like Hype Williams and Ralph McDaniels back then at the time when we was placing these videos, placing these the clothing in the videos, it wasn't until I think it was Fredro Starr. He was doing New York Undercover, and he wound up coming to the house, grabbing some shirts, and he went out and said, "You know what? I'm gonna shoot this on a show." He shot on New York Undercover. He wound up getting killed in the shirt, but it was like for us, it was like a 30-second commercial, you know. So, and we had never been on.
That's huge.
Yeah, we never been on mainstream TV as far as a TV show. Yeah, we did videos and we saw things in videos and whatnot in clubs, and you know, like Ralph, you run around the clubs and you see the FUBU shirt here or whatever in the crowd, but never on mainstream TV. So when that happened, you know, we were searching around for a deal at the time, and we got a call back from one of the guys from Samsung, actually, one of the guys that was running Samsung at the time, and he was like, "You guys are still out there doing your thing. You know, once y'all come back in for a follow-up meeting," and then we did that. And at the time, actually, Daymond was the only one that did it because, you know, we were like street dudes at the time. Nah, I mean, we was, you know what I mean? Nah, I'm saying it was all that going on back then. So, but he, you know, he didn't want to, you know, mess up the deal, so he just went down there himself and made things happen. And when he came back, you know, things just started to turn around. And from there, we moved from the house. We moved into the Empire State Building, where we remained there for 20 years. We were there for 20 years.
Empire State, 20 years. That's huge. You know,
Yeah.
that's longevity. And that's what I said, because there's a lot of other brands. I remember that because working with Big Giant and Lady B in Philly, you know, people used to come through. They was pushing Varsity. You remember Varsity wear? They had Varsity, one of them ones. They was throwing that out for us to push that. But the longevity with FUBU is still intact today.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
brand.
you know, we built a legacy, man. So you really can't really talk about hip hop. You know, the early stages of hip hop, the 70s and 80s. You know, we were in our teens and whatever, and you know, early teenage years. But once it got to the 90s and past there, you know, you can't really talk about hip hop without mentioning FUBU, because we was in entrenched in the culture at that point. You know, we were in all the videos and TV shows, movies, and you know, just everywhere, man. You know, overseas. I remember when we first got in the game, it was like, you know, hey, we got 3.5 years. We said we got 3 years tops to get this going, and we got to make as much money as possible, and you know, because it's going to be over. And when that third year came, and we were so, you know, nervous, but at the same time, we was making the most money we ever made, you know, to date. That's when the whole 350 million thing came into part, because we started, you know, expanding. And you know, what we did was we opened up when everybody was here and doing things, we were always trying to figure out how we can zig when others was zagging. You know what I'm saying? Because we noticed that at one point everybody was trying to do the same thing we were doing. Like if we did an ad and stacked some jeans up a certain way, then 2 months later somebody else did the same ad with their jeans. You know what I mean? So we started figuring out different ways where we can, you know, go where people were, you know, weren't really trying to go. So we started doing the BMX and the, the X Games and, NASCAR and different things like that. So, and then from there we built over 200 freestanding stores overseas. So we have places like South Africa, Turkey, Milan, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Korea,
Huge.
Japan.
Global.
Like, I remember
That's
going to
global.
Japan. I think I went to Japan in like 98, 99, and
Mhm.
walking down the block, seeing a whole FUBU store and like 200 people
Mhm.
outside the FUBU store waiting for the event. I'm like, it's just
Yeah,
crazy, So it's been a ride, man, and to be in this game. This is our 30th anniversary year, so to be in this game
that's
30 years,
huge.
you know,
That's
is
huge. I mean, that's big, and I love it. And I hope y'all do 30 more, hands down. Because that's what I want to see. That's the positive projection of us black men, us brothers making it, pulling each other up, and I want to see it because that's a great model. So your legacy, so other people coming behind can see your legacy and strive for the same thing to see
right.
that y'all came out and y'all did it. And man,
Mm-hmm.
y'all get all the flowers in the world for that, man, because
Yeah, I
you know
appreciate that.
that's what I see, and that's the legacy continues. So that's what I'm saying, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. FUBU Radio as well. That's a part of it, and that's a branch that's like iHipHopTV. You're in touch with the popular culture,
Mm-hmm.
and FUBU Radio is still taking that culture and delivering it worldwide. Uh, give
Right.
us a little background on that because it's because the artists we deal with a lot of artists. They're going to be coming through, so I want them to hit it and strive to. I got to get my music there. I got to get my people there. I got to get my profile
Right.
there.
Well, I kind of a few years ago, I want to say maybe about 8 years ago, a good friend of mine, he came to me and was like, and especially at the time, I was trying to figure out because, like I said to you earlier when we was talking off camera, I said I did the clothing thing, so I wanted to branch out and do something that I was doing on my own that I can build up on my own. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
everybody was starting to do different projects. I know Daymond had did the Shark Tank thing. He started doing that.
Yes.
And even back then we were slated to do like one of the first I think it was the first reality show on BET, and
Mhm.
and he didn't want to do it. We didn't know that he was talking to ABC with Shark Tank, and that's why he didn't want to do it. But he just kept saying, "Nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." And we were kind of like arguing. I'm like, "Come on, bro. This is gonna take us over the top." But he didn't want to do it. So at the time when he switched up and did the Shark Tank thing, I was like, "Okay, well, that's a better look. That's a
Yeah.
great look for you, actually. So when he did that, everybody just started to, figure out, different lanes that they can jump into. And I wound up getting into starting a radio station with my guy. And the concept behind what we're doing with the radio station is kind of the same concept that we do with the clothing brand, because it's all about our community and giving back and building our people up. Um, and, with the station, I was just tired of hearing the same old 20, 30 songs every day. Like I would switch from one station to the next and they be playing the same song at the same time. I'm like, wow, I used to go to when I first started going to LA back in the days, I'm not sure the radio station, but they used to play everything. They used to play hip hop, they used to play R&B, they would play East
Yeah.
Coast, West Coast, South music. Like they would play all the music. And I used to be like, man, this station is really rocking. They play everything. So I always had that in my mind that, especially when radio started to become basically a system of, okay, these are the playlists that everybody plays. I
Right.
felt, you know, there's a lot of music from the 90s that was really, hard and was hitting hard. Like And this even back in the 80s, you might want to hear, you know, I need a roundaway girl. You know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah,
might want to hear
yeah.
that. And for radio to play the same 20 songs, 30 songs all the time, it was just
That
frustrating. So then I
rotation.
went out and I bought satellite radio. So I started satellite radio in all my cars because I never wanted to hear all of this stuff. So anyway, make a long story short, we just provide, you know, a platform where we can empower, encourage, uplift, you know, our people and show them, hey, you know, you don't know how to get grants. Hey, this is how you go get grants for this. Or you don't know, you know, even when the PPP was out, we was like, okay, this is how you go get your, you know, your PPP, and this is the requirements, and you know, it's just educating people and giving them that platform where they can go to get information from and
Right.
good music. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we keep
teaching
music.
them how to hunt and fish, you know,
Yeah,
and that's the path you're doing. Not giving it to them, showing them how to do it, you know,
yeah, you know. So
and that's huge.
yeah, and then you know, and we it took us, like I told you earlier, it took us a while to get over the hump. You know, it was sometimes where I wanted to quit, but I had, and I don't want to say it like I started something I wanted to quit. It's about knowing when you are either gonna get over this hump or you're gonna jump off this ship and do something else because this isn't working. And I never felt that it wasn't working. It was just taking a long time to get to where I wanted it to go. And then with the pandemic setting us back, you know, once we got over the hump, the pandemic set us back and we basically had to start all over again. So, excuse me. But, you know, for us, well, for me rather, it wasn't about quitting because I saw the work that my team had put in and the sacrifices that they made, and I just couldn't see myself quitting on them, you know what I'm saying, or giving up
Yeah,
on them. When the
yeah,
road was rough, yeah, it was rough, but it wasn't to the point where, you know, I felt it wasn't going to work. So I just had to keep going, and then finally we got over that hump. So this year I'm looking forward to a great year. You know, we're doing big things. We have a new deal in place that we just locked in. So 2023 is gonna be epic for us, and I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. That's huge, and you got a great lineup of shows on
Oh
there
yeah,
for those of you out there. You people, you just want to get out there. I mean, it's multiple. It's about 15. What is it, about 15
yeah. It's
shows, and
about
then the music as well.
yeah.
It's
It's
about
about
15 shows.
yeah. No, it's just about. I want to say it's about 8, 9 shows. We have about 8, 9 shows.
8, 9 shows.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, we got about 8, 9 shows, and it ranges from everything from podcasts to um uh Chris Childs is more of a journalist. Shay McCrae is really like an entertainment. She's really on the entertainment side. Very bubbly personalities as well as Chris Childs. Very smart women. We have who else we have? We have Brandon McGee, you know, a guy who does the political side for us. So he handles the political side and whatnot. He's a representative out of Connecticut. And then we have
Mm.
Kay Fox, who comes on, you know, every Saturday, contributes her stuff every Saturday. She's a big name in radio. You know, she's been doing radio in Miami for years now, maybe about 20 something years. Um,
Hmm.
so she, you know, she's on board. And who else we got? We got Kiss Radio Show out of Atlanta. You know, they do a great job down there. Then I have one of my DJs who has a show called The Power Connect, because as I built the station and me and my partner built the station and put it together, it was certain shows that we wanted to touch. It was like we were playing all this old school hip hop and R&B, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, that's cool, but you know, a lot of these kids, how do we get to the kids? You know what I'm saying? Like these kids are now using music as one of their platforms to get out the hood or to further their life or whatever the case may be. How do we
Yeah.
connect with them? So we started a show called the Power Connect for new artists and new music. So EJ the DJ is the DJ on that and the host. So if he likes your music, he's gonna play it. So he just moved down to Atlanta. So it's a lot of different shows going on. I'm actually about to do a show, do my own radio show. So I'm working on that now,
Okay.
finalizing the details and whatnot. Because I started
Okay.
to put out I started to like tell these little stories and whatnot, and everybody was like, "Yo, people need to hear that." But I don't want to jump on the radio and just tell stories about what I used to go through and what I used to do. So I'm gonna figure out
Right.
a way how to deliver it. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably be dropping that the second quarter. So I'm gonna work
Yeah.
on it now and just jump into it and get my feet wet and because it's a challenge for me. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that I see I can do. I know I can do it. But I haven't done it. So now is to put up or shut up. So
Yeah, yeah. You gotta go ahead and do it,
yeah,
and get it out there. It's cool. I mean, I was the same way. I myself, trained as a technical behind the scenes, writer, whatever guy. And like you said, the pandemic and stuff started to happen, and I couldn't get people. I was looking for people, in that lane that give them that shot to come on and host the show. I'll engineer it for you. We'll write it. I'll produce it with you. Couldn't get nobody to do it. Nobody would took it. So you can do whatever podcast you want. I was dealing with 2K Kent and everything, but it's fun. You get fun. You adapt to it. I love meeting people. I love meeting people like you and brothers that are doing it, that have done it, that have a footprint in industries and that is showing and providing lanes and information and instruction, like you said, to move forward in this thing. That's
yeah,
huge. And again, man, that's all flowers right there for y'all. And y'all deserve more for doing that. Like I said, FUBU is legacy. I mean, there's people. I was there. I remember when it dropped and it hit. We was like, oh, we got to get them, and we was running, we was getting them. That's like everybody. We was in food, where I was in, when it dropped, I was probably in the DMV, the DC, Maryland,
yeah,
Baltimore, down that area, and I was
yeah.
like,
We
okay,
used to,
we down here.
what we used to mess with down there. Man, I got this store. Izzy, he used to be in DC. I forget the name of his store. But it was a big store.
Is it?
It's on the tip of my tongue. But Izzy he's a big store owner down there in DC, and he used to
Right.
buy the brand a lot. That's when down there they had Hobo. That's when Hobo was out there.
Hobo, yeah, Hobo. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
Hobo, yep. But those brands, but that carried because when I went into Philly, it was more prominent. When I got up in the Philly as well as Baltimore, FUBU was always a staple in the wardrobe.
Right.
In the hip hop players' wardrobe. When
Right.
you out chilling, that was a staple in there. So and that's big. And now FUBU Radio, especially for the artists, to come on and see that and to strive for that. How would artists go about getting with you to get their music played? Serious artists, because I know you have people that they got shows and everything else and that they're doing. But for artists out there that like, man, I like to get my music on there. Is there a path for that for them?
Yeah, I mean they just reach out to EJ the DJ. And it is EJ the DJ at so EJ
The
THEDJ.
DJ,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So EJ the
EJ,
DJ.
yeah,
Yeah,
hit
so
him.
he's on Instagram. You can always DM us and on FUBU Radio, and we'll point you in the right direction. It's actually official FUBU Radio on Instagram. I had a situation years ago with a friend that said that he wanted to help me out and he didn't jack my name on Instagram, so I had to change it to official FUBU Radio. And there's little
Yeah.
things like that, like people who you think is riding for you, sometimes just they're not really riding for you. You guys get over that hump though.
Yeah. Let them know, bro. Let them know that that
No,
that is
it's real out
that's
there. It's
real.
like you try to help people out and try to put them in a position, and sometimes they can't see what you see, you know. and it's no fault to them because I wish everybody the best. I never hate on nobody. There are plenty of times where we had salespeople who was working for us, and I know we was paying them 150, 125, $150,000 a year to be a graphic designer, and or a salesperson or whatever, and people would come in and offer them 250, and and they looking at me like, I really love you guys, but if you can match it, and this, it was like, listen, we got hundreds of people working for us, you know what I'm saying? So it's a different situation with us, not that we wouldn't want to do it for you, but right now it's not in the budget and it's not budgeted for. So we're not gonna just if you want to go there, go go get your money, and they would go work there, and then 6 months later be like, hey, do I gotta can I come back? And we like, you want to come back? Like, what do you mean you want to come back? And they be like, listen, the money's good, but the relationships and the family is not the same as it is with you guys. So, even though I'm not making as much, I was way more comfortable with you guys. And they would come back, and we would take them back. And some didn't come back, but I never really hold anything against anybody who can't see what you see. It's not there. They're not in a position to see what you see. You can only lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. So if you show them what you think you can achieve, or what they can achieve, and they don't see that for themselves, or they want to go another route, then you go your route and you do your thing. And I wish you the best. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm really into everybody winning. We can win together, cool. But if we can't win together, you went on your own, I went on my own, and maybe we'll come full circle and come back around.
Back around. Yeah. That's real talk right there with that statement. So now in the business, the way things are, the '90s, it had the better music. '90s and 2000, the music was pumping back then. It was kicking. You say, don't say that. Yeah.
I'm telling you, because you know what it is everybody got their time, man. Like, us, the good thing, I joke around. I say I'm a senior citizen. I know I don't look like a senior citizen, but once I got up to, I'm 52 now, so I'm going on 53. So I look at it like I had the best time of all the eras, because even though I was born in 70, my mom's and them was, they was 60s all the way out. So they was bringing that into the 70s. So I felt, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, you know what I'm saying? The 2010. Now we into 2020. So I got to see everything. I got to see it go from an 8-track to digital to streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like, you tell people that, and they don't understand sometimes. Like, even with the movies and how we started off with the blaxploitation movies and all of that, and then we evolved and got better roles, and then started headlining our own movies, and
stories
it was a
out
transition. It's like you won't get to see that. Like, I went from the phone with the long cord. You had to get the long cord in the kitchen so you can go sit in the living room. You know what I'm saying? So since somebody call your house, if you ain't have call waiting, your phone was busy
missed
for
that call.
hours.
Yeah, it was busy.
You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. Like, everybody had
I
one
remember
phone.
all that.
Everybody had one phone. You had one phone number. You had the phone number. Your mama, your sister, everybody had one phone number.
One phone.
So,
but back then, tell the truth, you knew everybody's phone number though.
Yeah.
Anybody you want to call, you knew everybody's phone number.
You had to write it down. That's why. Listen, my back in the days, right? I'd never forget. Daymond he had this little index card that he used to always keep in his pocket. He used to be writing all this stuff down. I'm like, yo, what are you writing down? He's like, all the stuff I got to do today, I got to write it down, because if I don't write it down, I'm going to forget about 70% of it. But if I write it down, I maybe complete 70, 80% of it. So I was like, So I never did it until years later when I was doing the property management thing. I started writing things down, and I noticed that when I write things down, things get done. You know, you don't forget things. Like, because I'm such a thinker that I'll be thinking about 10 things at one time. So I could just think about 10 things. I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I say, yeah. And then 10 minutes later, I'm thinking about 10 more things. And then I'm
Thanks.
like,
Yeah.
man, what was the one? And then I forget, so I
Yeah.
always try to write it down. And I think, and one thing about being productive and being, on point is write things down. You got to write them down, you know, even if you do it in your phone, you know what I'm saying? Because people be like, oh, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
carry around a piece of paper and pen. I don't care. Put it in your notes in your phone. Just write it down. Everything you got to do,
Everything.
write it
Everything.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to being really successful is completing your goals and writing them down so that you remember your goals and you can complete a
Goals.
higher
Yeah.
percentage of your goals by writing them down. So that's big.
Yeah, that's big. That's great advice. I guess with the new culture, the youngins, they got the phones and the notepads and the notes.
Hmm.
That's what you do today, if that's what you got to do. Or like me, same thing. I write and everything too. So I got the voice recorders. I'm recording everything digitally. Let me, oh
Same
yeah,
thing.
do
Yep.
that. Same thing, and then go back
Mhm.
and then I transcribe it, and put it on
Yes.
paper.
Hmm.
So that's a great note. So one thing that's important too, because from starting there and with the business and everything, and then to today, how do you like the changes in the technology, and how is that is it making doing business a lot more easier for you, or able to, the global market, everything is shrunk down. It's borderless now with these internet with the internet and everything else age. Do that technology fit, the direction with FUBU Radio and everything that you're going? Well, what's
Oh yeah,
next
yeah,
beyond
yeah.
that technology?
Actually, with this deal that I just worked out, we're about to announce it shortly. Do a press release and all that stuff. So I'll let that come out. But the company is built on technology. And they have some really very interesting technology, which is actually like groundbreaking. Like the stuff that they're doing is like groundbreaking. So I'm excited to partner with them because I know we're going to be a part of something big, and you know they need my component and I need their component, and together I
Hmm.
think we're gonna change a few things. So but as you said, as far as technology, I mean, to me is changing for the better because you're able to do a lot of things, on the go with this thing here. I call
This
this
thing here,
People call it a phone, I'm calling it a computer.
computer.
You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It's a talking computer because you could just literally handle all your business right on your phone.
Hmm.
Especially if you have the right apps or the right things on your phone to do a lot of the things you need to do. Um, that wasn't available back then when we were coming up. When we were out, we didn't have any social media, we didn't have any free advertising, we didn't have any way to touch people,
Hmm.
tens of millions of people at one time. We didn't have that. We had to
Hmm.
actually get up, get the money together, travel, go to the event, be at the event, be able to pay for the event. You know what I'm saying? Be able to move
Hmm.
around at the event. So, we had to
Hmm.
pick and choose which events we wanted to go to because, we weren't making a lot of money in the beginning. So, um, there were things like the Black Expo. Like we did the Black Expo.
Yeah.
Uh, and the Black Expo, we used to, gather our money up and be five in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. No
you know,
doubt. Yeah.
before we got the bread, it was like
Yeah.
five rooms. So when
Hmm.
we got there, it was like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna sacrifice, we're gonna make it happen to get this stuff going. And before we knew it, the Black Expo wound up being our our flower pot.
Right.
Like we put so many seeds into the
Seeds.
pot that we didn't know what was gonna happen. We just felt like we need to go and make as much money as we can and sell all these clothes. and we were selling out the clothes. Like if it was 4 days, by the second day we were sold out what we
Sold
had.
out. Wow.
So Daymond had to go home, spend, a good 8 to 10 hours overnight figuring out what we're gonna do, and then come back the next day, the last day, with 500 more shirts just so we can get them off. So
yeah.
But in doing that, when we got our deal, in the beginning, the deal was you have to make $5 million in 3 years, or you keep your name, or you pay back the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, cool. So we wound up making $5 million that first season, that we came out.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh shit, this is, and wound up making 20 million the next season. So with the span of 6 or 7, 8 months, we didn't already made $25 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just because people couldn't find it anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So they couldn't find it anywhere. So when we finally got the deal and put it in all the stores, all that work we did with the Black Expo paid off.
Yeah.
Yet we didn't know, until we started seeing the people like, yo, I used to come here at the Black Expo. I just bought, you see what I got? It was, then you start to see the people come back around you again at different events and whatnot. So, sometimes, you have to start somewhere, and people don't get that. Like even now, I'll consult with people and I'm like, you're like, yo, I made $200,000 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's good money.
Yeah.
That's good money. I said, you ain't really got no overhead. That's some pretty good money. I said, okay, your goal now is to make 400,000 the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody want to go from 200,000 to $1 million and 10 million.
Mm-mm.
It just doesn't work like that. It don't work like that. Like you gotta crawl before you walk. And nowadays the system is different. It's not built the way it was when I was doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like deals that we got was, okay, you have an idea, you work at it, you get it popping a little bit, and people start talking about it, and then somebody give you a whole bunch of money, and then you either in debt or you make it work. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But nowadays, people don't want to invest in that. You have to be doing 10 million. We was doing $300,000 in sales, talking about we had $1 million in sales. Nowadays, everything is pretty much transparent, so you can't, be fronting like that. Like, what I'm saying?
No, you can't. They want to see the numbers.
Yeah, and then you have to, people are not really investing like that in startups and everything like that no more. So you really have to get this shit off the ground, and then they come in later on and be like, and it's always a better situation like that, because now you have a little leverage. If you sell your own stuff and you build it up, you're not coming with your tail between your legs. But you need money. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
now
That's always the issue, with the startups like that. You're at the bay of those people. That's like the recording artist with the record deal. Did you get into the worst loan of your life? And you don't want that, and that's big. So, and on that, Keith, what's the best advice anyone has ever given you?
The best advice, the best advice I ever got. Let me see. Save your money. Use other people's money. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times you don't really understand how important it is to save your money. It's always easy to get a lot of money. Oh, I tell you, the best advice is, if I'm going to spend $100,000, if I'm going to spend $10,000 a month, I got to be making $30,000 to $40,000 a month. I got to be making 3 times the amount of money I'm spending. You know what I'm saying? I got to
Mm-hmm.
be, because before it was like when I was coming up, I didn't really have no financial literacy. Sometimes you have people around you who don't want to teach you that, who don't want to, give you that advice because either they're trying to learn it or they're trying to have one up on you or, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. But, sometimes they don't want to share that information with you.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do share it with you is really important because, you know, you make $10,000 a month and then you say to yourself, oh, my bills is $8,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically spending 85% of your money every
Money.
month that you have. And there's no way you can ever come up and save because you're spending all your money. So it's better for you to save your money than to really spend your money. But, when you're talking to kids who come from the hood and
Yeah.
they see all this now. Today's world is even worse because it's all about designer, and you got to have this, you got to have that. When I was
Right.
coming up, it was about the jewelry and the cars, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really about having on the $10,000 sweatsuit and all that stuff that you could wear once and can't really wear it too many times and all that stuff. It wasn't
Yeah.
really about that when we was coming up, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I learned early on that I didn't need a lot of stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was driving Benz. My Benz was like 100 some thousand, but it wasn't 500,000 Maybach. It wasn't a $2 million Bugatti. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
that, and it worked for me. And then the older I got, the more I realized that
You
cars are
didn't
just
need that.
material, material things. I sat there. I had a conversation one time with Matthew Knowles in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and me and this brother, man, we talked for about a good 3 hours. And at first, I was intimidated because he was Beyonce's father, even though I was who I was at the time. He was coming at me with some real deep rhetoric, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, so we talking back and forth, and as I told you earlier, my mom's is very militant, so a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that she taught me over the years, or continue to teach me over the years, was something that I was able to sit down and talk to him in a way where if he talked about, you know, cars, or if he talked about income, or if he talked about the music industry, or if he talked about politics, we were able to sit down and talk about each and every one of those things. And
Right.
one of the things he told me early, and this was around, I want to say 2000, 2001, whenever Jay-Z and Beyonce started talking.
Talking. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
when
Yeah.
they
Early
started dating,
two
because
thousands. Yeah.
Jay-Z was there. He was there too, shooting hoops at the court. It was a radio um, convention in Vegas years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, do you buy your cars or do you lease your cars? And I was like, well, I leased my first car, but I bought my second car because I want to own as much car. He was like, listen, let me tell you something. Don't ever buy another car as long as you live. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? What are you talking about? So he said, man, you go spend all that money on that car. As soon as that car touched the pavement, it depreciate 30% right off the lot. And
Yep.
then the more you drive it, the more it goes down. He was like, lease all your cars. He said, I lease a car, and right now I think he had a Bentley or something. He said, I just leased a Bentley, and in 3 years when that Bentley is up, I'm gonna go get me a newer one. And
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there looking at him like, man, this guy crazy. Like all this money he got, but by the end of the conversation that we had, he made perfect sense to a lot of stuff he was talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a conversation that I really respected because he was pouring into me, you know, trying to feed me when he didn't even really know me. We just sat there
Yeah.
and got to know each other, and he felt comfortable enough to pour into me this knowledge that he had, and
Yeah.
and I really appreciate it. But there's a lot of times where, like I said, you know, as long as I'm good, living comfortably, I don't need 10, 15 cars. I don't need $1 million
Mm-hmm.
cars. I don't need none of that, man. Like, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Like I've gotten to a age where, you know, a car's a car. You know, how fast you really gonna go in the car? Now, don't get me wrong. I like, you know, my little nice cars that I do have,
Yeah.
but excuse me. But it's certain things that I look for in the cars now. You know, when I go to the dealership, I'm looking for options and packages. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I don't need nothing else. I don't need to come out and put no rims on my car and go put a system and fit. You know, I did. Listen, let me tell you something. This is
Mm-hmm.
how ignorant I was back in the days. I leased a car for 55,000. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I put 50,000 worth of equipment, TVs, refrigerators, satellite TVs, all kind of stuff in the car. I had the car for 3 years. So my guy says, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep the car, you're gonna return it. I was like, man, I don't want no Lincoln Navigator. I want a Benz. I want to step up. I'm trying to get something new. I'm gonna take it and just, you know, and take it. I'm gonna take it back. So he was like, okay, well, you know, I have to take all the stuff out of it. No, actually, I put 40,000 in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said I had to take it back. He said, I said, well, how long? How much does it, you know, charge? How much you gonna charge me to take all the stuff out, put everything back factory? He said, you know, about 10,000. So I paid him 10,000. So now I paid him $50,000 to
50.
put it and take it out. And then I gave the car back. And I said to myself, oh, I have all this equipment. I'm going to use this equipment on my next car. That equipment sat in my house from 2001 till 2013.
Wow.
I couldn't
Wow.
do nothing. I couldn't do nothing with the equipment. I started giving away the car speakers, you know, but the radio and all of the
Yeah.
amplifiers, man, I
You
was
couldn't do
like,
nothing with it.
I couldn't do
Yeah.
nothing with it. I already had a system in my other car, so it wasn't nothing that I needed it for. So, you know, that was just being young and dumb. You know, if I could relive it, I would have kept the car. That'd have
Yeah.
been one car I kept. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because I really put in some nice work into it. But you know, ever since then, I put the next car I had, which I bought for my wife. I put
Mm-hmm.
a system in that, and then I haven't put a system in another car since
Since
2001. I haven't put
yeah.
in a system in my car, so I just get the options in the packages, man. When I go there, you know, and that's it, and drive off the lot, and that's how the car going. That's how I bought it.
That's
That's
how
how I
you go.
leased it. That's how it's going to stay.
Going back. Yeah, yeah, I feel that that's the good move. So, and on the flip side of that, on that note, what's the best advice would you give a young entrepreneur coming out here today? You know, what would that advice be?
It's something so simple, and a lot of people don't understand it when I say it to them because they have so many questions about how to get to that next level. And I always say, do your homework, do your research. That's so important and so vital to getting to that next level. So many people rely on people to tell them things that may or may not be true, or may be the right direction, or may be the wrong direction. But if you have on blinders and you letting somebody steer you and you don't seek knowledge, you know, like I said, when I grew up, my mom's always told me to seek knowledge, and so I always do my homework and try to make sure that, you know, if it's something that I don't know, let me find out. You know, never be afraid to ask questions. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to ask questions because they think people are going to think they either are not smart or, you know, are not knowledgeable, and it's not about that. Is if you don't know something, ask. You know, a closed mouth
Yeah,
don't get fed. um and you know, if you believe in something, you know, like I believed in FUBU Radio, I really believe that I could take it to the next level, and I can make this something that can be a part of the legacy going forward. You know, work at your craft. You know, I tell you a funny story. Before I finish this story,
mm-hmm.
when I first started the radio station and moved into, we used to have a penthouse office. So we moved up to the second level of the penthouse, and I used to tell people, a lot of my friends who were photographers, I said, listen, I need help. I need you guys to come shoot this. And they'd be like, okay, well, what's the budget? I said, we can work something out, or, whatever, we'll figure it out. I said, or you can be a part of whatever I'm doing, and, we'll work something in for you. And they would always be like, all right, cool, cool, cool. And then they would come once, maybe twice, and then they would call, yo, I'm not gonna be able to make it today, it's that and other. And then the next day they supposed to come in, yo, something came up, my kid is sick, whatever the case may be. And I used to be like, okay, no problem. And then the third time they supposed to come, they don't even call. You know what I mean? So I'm like, so I knew how important it was for us to grab the content for the station as we were building the station. And I like me, I'm the CEO, but I could also be the janitor. You know what I'm saying? I could also be the bartender. I could
Many
also
hats.
I could be the light man. I could be the engineer. I could be, whatever I need. I could be the host. Whatever I need to be, man. That's what I'm gonna be. And a lot of times people don't, they get to a point where they value these titles over everything. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm the CEO. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to pick up this box. I don't have to grab that box and take it to FedEx, or I don't have to, at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to get to that next level. And a lot of people, it gets lost on a lot of people because, of these titles. They think because they're a certain title, they don't, and my team, they used to see me like, I used to work the cameras. I used to have this camera over here and this camera. So I'm be going back and forth with the camera to make sure they didn't cut off, because it was a problem that I didn't understand. I didn't have the right card in the camera that would make it stay on. Like it would cut off after 30 minutes. So you would see me constantly going over there. This camera cut off. I'm turning it on. Then I got the lights on, but I got the lights running on battery, so I can move them around where I want them to move. And then realizing that these batteries only last an hour, and then now I got another show coming in after this show. Now I ain't got no lights for this show, because like it was crazy, was figuring it out, but I would figure it out. So I would be running the lights, I would be running the cameras, and then my engineer would call me and be like, yo, I missed the train, come in, I'm gonna drive in, but I'm gonna be there like 45 minutes late. Okay, cool. That doesn't stop the show. The guest is here, the host is here. Now I'm the engineer, the light man, and the cameraman all in one day. You know what I'm saying? And never complaining about it, because I needed to capture that for me, and for the team. And wind up capturing about 4 terabytes worth of content. Over almost a good year and a half, 2-year time span. So, but if I would have sat there and been like, I'm the CEO, I don't got to do this, I don't need to do that, I'm gonna hire somebody to do this, I'm hire. Sometimes it's better off doing it yourself, and not letting a circumstance like that hinder you from getting what you need to further your business. You know what I'm saying? Or to have that content that people would love to see. Like I've never even, like I put the content out on Instagram stories, but I've never put the content out. So we still got a lot of stuff that we're gonna drop for you guys to show you how basically how we built the brand. So I'm happy that I was able to do that and capture that moment.
Yeah, that's huge. Sound like what I do. Same thing. Got to wear every hat in this thing, and you have to, to get that level of perfection that you want, that you're satisfied with, that you want to put out there to represent your product. Right. I think that's important, and always show that growth and that movement forward. And that's great. And that's great advice. To come down. So. Man, that's big. FUBU, Keith Perrin here, man. That's wonderful to have you come through iHipHop and shoot it up, man. And definitely, keep us posted with anything going on over there at FUBU Radio, so we can show the love, get the people going and make it happen, because we always here and we always making it happen doing what we do. We got so many shows going on right now as well. And we definitely love to have you back if you get a chance,
Yeah, man, reach out whenever y'all need me, man. I'll come back and holler at y'all.
Man, that's big. We like to have that, like to hear that, man. Keith Perrin, FUBU Radio in the house. Thanks for coming through, sir.
All right. Appreciate you having me, man.
The baby comes
premature,
right?
Yeah,
and the body isn't fully developed because you exposed the fetus to the light before the creation process was done.
Complete.
Right. And the first pain that baby experience is when it comes out the womb and the light hit the baby eyes for the first time, and his eyes have to adjust to the light for the first time.
Light. Yeah.
Right. So they used to say that the fastest way of travel was moving at the speed of light. It's where you got the number 1 from. It's where you got the letter L from. Einstein said no. He said if we can bend space and time and bring one point to the next using dark matter, dark energy, and create a wormhole, it's called the theory of relativity, the Rosenbridge theory. Then we get from one point to the next instantaneously. 0 comes before the 1. Darkness comes before the light. So when you ask yourself, when you go outside, you look up at the sky on a clear night, and you see all them billions of stars up there. What's behind and around every star?
Darkness.
So if God is everywhere and omnipresent, the only element in the whole universe that's everywhere at all times is what?
Darkness.
So if God is 100% love and peace, what's the only element in the whole universe that has no destructive properties in it at all?
Darkness.